So amid the calls from some for President Biden to bow out of the race, former Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan of Ohio says Vice President Kamala Harris should replace Biden at the top of the ticket. In a new piece for Newsweek, Congressman Ryan, a longtime supporter of Joe Biden, argues Harris, quote, deserves a chance to go to the American people and show us her mettle. And former Congressman Ryan joins us now. Congressman, it's great to have you back on the show. We should say that in the piece you make very clear that you are a huge fan of Joe Biden. You came out after you got out of the race in 2020, the first candidate to support Joe Biden. You say he's been great for the country. He's been great for working class people in towns like the one you come from, in districts like the one you represented in Ohio. So why do you think at this point the president needs to get out of the race?
Well, I watched the debate, Willie. I mean, we all saw it happening in real time, and it was so concerning to me that he's not up to the job. I mean, not just the campaign. You watched Donald Trump shapeshift COVID, the economy, climate. He was able to string a story along that is completely untrue, as you just noted, but we have to have a candidate that can push back and call BS on that stuff. There's too much at stake here, and you could poke holes in his arguments left and right, but the president was not able to do it. And again, I love him, but somebody I think like Kamala Harris, I think would be in that position. She would kick Trump's rear end in a debate. We've got the choice issue hanging out there. There's so much at stake in this election, for women especially, but we saw the Chevron decision. We just saw the immunity decision. I mean, the Supreme Court literally flipped the Constitution on its head. Now, we lose that Senate. If we lose the presidency, every federal court is going to have a Clarence Thomas there. Every U.S. attorney across the United States is going to have one of these radical federalists prosecuting people. That's a scary situation. So we can't hesitate here. We've got to be decisive. We've got to look at the field, see what's going on, and make a decision and move on. And I just think Kamala would have appeal in the Midwest. She could prosecute the pro-choice issue. She would kick Trump's rear end. And most importantly, she's a generational change, which is what the American people want.
So, Congressman, the argument we've been hearing, and again yesterday from the White House, from the Biden campaign, is let's not judge Joe Biden on one bad night. Let's not make this about debate performance. Let's make this about presidential performance. Look at President Biden's record. Look at all he's done. Look at the fact that he's already defeated Donald Trump. How do you factor all that into your calls for him to step aside?
We all are going to brag in this election that this has been the most successful term of a president in modern history. The CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure bill, even modest gun reform. It's been a success in so many ways, and we want to brag about it. But we need a candidate that can brag about that. And I think, again, I think that's Kamala Harris personally, who could come to the industrial Midwest and brag to working class voters about that kind of stuff. But I don't think that it's helpful to try to convince the American people that we didn't see what we saw. I mean, that further separate. That's why the 41% are calling for him not to run. That's why people are running around with their heads in their hands, because you're asking them to not believe what they saw, that their eyes are lying to them. And I don't think that's helpful. Okay. There's so much going on. We've got to be decisive.
Tim, I don't understand who's doing that. Everyone says it was a terrible night. I mean, it was a horrible, terrible, disappointing night. No one is saying, no one's being Trumpy here. Okay, and let's just put that aside, although that's really hard, because the alternative in this race, Donald Trump, we could talk for 3 hours about the destruction to this country, the retribution that guy, I know, but I mean, the alternative is frightening. And the immunity ruling and everything that comes, the criminality of it all is unbelievable. So if Joe Biden can recover from this, and I'm just suggesting that everybody wait a week and see what happens, with the record that you were just talking about, the unmatched bipartisan legislative action, the unmatched ability to galvanize on the world stage, two hot wars. You know the list. You know what he's done. You know he took that 10-hour train ride to Kyiv. You know, these are things that most presidents don't have to do, wouldn't do, maybe wouldn't take the time to do. And I'd say Democrats as well in the past wouldn't make the effort Joe Biden has made for this country. I think he always puts this country first. What I don't get about your argument, and I'm curious about it because I respect you greatly, is that you still have Kamala Harris. She is his vice president, and she's on the front lines of the abortion debate. By the way, we can't even begin to talk about the danger to women that Donald Trump has put on this country, women whose lives are in danger now because of what he has done to. I just wonder, though, what argument are you making to put Kamala Harris out there when she already is?
Well, it's nobody has the microphone of the president of the United States, the bully pulpit. Nobody, not even the vice president. And my concern is not so much the governing. I voted for all that and supported a lot of what he did because it's helping places like Ohio and the industrial Midwest. But my concern and my argument is that I don't think that Joe Biden could make the argument. And the next 4 months are going to be about whether or not we can push back on Trump's lies and provide a big, new, fresh vision for a new America that we want to create. Or are we going to allow Trump to run roughshod over the Democratic argument, which is exactly what happened the other day in the debate. And that's my concern. When he started talking about the economy being good under him, when he started talking about how well he handled COVID, and there was zero pushback, just as someone who's been in the business for almost 25 years, that's frightening. Like that, you pop him, you poke holes in him, and you elevate the conversation about what we've done. And my concern in my heart is that the president is not going to be able to do that over the next 4 months, and that scares the crap out of me.
We shall see. All right, former Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning.
Love you.
Up now, all right, I love you too.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.